Hi guys, my name is Charles Dewandeler, and today I'm going to do my very first video tutorial showing you some Photoshop tricks that I wish I knew 10 years ago. Now I would say that right now I'm a middle level Photoshop person. I'm not an expert, but I'm not a beginner. I'm going to show you some tricks that I wish I knew 10 years ago when I was a beginner that I could have really used to make my photos look a lot better back then. So here's a photo of me from 10 years ago that I just recently did some Photoshop on and made it look like this. And there's several steps involved in this, so I'm going to take you through step by step exactly what I did so that you can do the same thing on your photos. First, let's start with this photo. I always duplicate my layers. Just click right click, duplicate. Now the first step here is when we took this photo in front of just a regular wall. So I want to replace this wall with something else. In the old days, what I used to do is I used to use this magic wand tool and click here, and maybe I could get what I wanted, maybe not. And if it didn't work, I may have even tried this quick select tool, and then when it started selecting things I didn't want it to select, I kind of was like, oh no, it's taking away the arm, and I'd give up on it, taking away the ear, and I would deselect it, and then I would just go and use the regular erase tool. Well, I was watching a tutorial recently, and I figured out the trick to, well, I didn't figure it out, they told me, how to use this quick selection tool properly. And this, if I had known this 10 years ago, this would have saved me so much time. So basically, you click and you drag, or you can unclick and then click over here and then drag. And it'll kind of remember where you clicked. And as long as it's a solid color, it works pretty well. When you get other colors in there, it doesn't work as well. Okay, so now we see that it's this solid color of the wall, it's selected pretty well. But it's also taken away my ear, taken away part of the arm, taken away some hair. Here's the easy fix. Hold the Alt button on your keyboard and then click the parts that you want to bring back. So I'm just going to go through the photo, and anywhere that I do not want selected, I'm holding Alt and I'm scrubbing the mouse over everything that I want to bring back. So see, now I just got the ear back. That's very important. Now I want to bring some of the hair back, although the color of this hair here is so close to the wall that that's a little bit hard. I want to bring this hair back, bring this part of my ear back. I don't want to be missing part of my ear. Alright, so I want to get the edge of the headphones. There we go. Yeah, you don't want to miss anything, because if you miss something, it will it'll look weird, because it'll look like part of the picture's missing and the audience won't know why. Alright, so now we've got everything. This is probably the best selection I've ever gotten on this, and that's because it's a solid color. So now I'm going to put the feather, let's just say 3. Okay. Now I can delete that background, and I have the cleanest edge I can possibly get with literally doing like 1 minute worth of work. Now to fine tune it, I can zoom in, I can go down here, put a big number like 100, and I can zoom in and erase. I'm going to make my eraser a little bit smaller. I like using the soft one. And then erase around the edges the parts that I don't want. And I also found out a trick from watching a video tutorial recently about how to better use this eraser tool. So in the old days, I would just very gently go like this all around the image that I wanted. But I found out recently, if you click and then hold Shift and then click again, it'll make a straight line. So let's click edit, step backward, edit, step backward. If I go here and click, hold shift, click, 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 it's going to give me a cleaner edge all the way around. And I can do this around my entire image until I get everything as close to perfect as I possibly can. For the purposes of saving you guys time, I'm going to try and not be boring and just move on to the next thing, because this looks actually pretty good. Okay. Next step. We can adjust the contrast and the colors and everything on me, but before we do that, I want to get a background. So there are different ways we can get a background. We can either go to a stock footage website like iStock Photo. We can go to Shutterstock. Look, 150,000 new photos added daily. That's insane. We can go to Pond 5. They're usually a little bit cheaper. Or we don't want to pirate photos, obviously, because photographers put a lot of time and money into their photos. Time taking the photos, but also money because, you know, they have to buy camera equipment and things like that. So we don't want to just steal their photos. But there are some photographers who will give you some of their photos for free. And here's an example. Pexels.com is a website that I use a lot when I want to get like backgrounds and stuff. Pexels, it's free stock photos that photographers just give you for free. And I've even put a few on here. Let's see if I can find mine. No, I can't. Well, not by my name anyway. Oh, do I click here? No. All right, I don't even know how to find my own photos on here. But I do have photos on here somewhere that are photos that I know are not good enough for me to try and sell on Shutterstock or iStock Photos to make money off of. So I just put them on here for free. They're photos of like leaves and actually, let me try typing leaves. No. None of these are mine. All right. Well, let's go back to my purpose for coming to Pexels. So I want to use a stock photo to put in the background so it's not just a plain wall or a plain color. Now here's what I did. Actually, before I do that, I should show you. Here's what I did 10 years ago with these photos. So my friend Anthony took some photos of me a few years ago, and we basically, actually, that's not the folder that I want. All right, so I met with my friend Anthony 10 years ago to take some photos, and what we did was we wanted to take some photos that I could use on social media to show that I'm a filmmaker and director and stuff like that. Oh, this isn't working the way I want. So here's like an example of one of the photos that he took of me 10 years ago. And here's an example of the Photoshop that I did 10 years ago. As you can see, I overdid the contrast. Instead of putting a background behind it, I just made the background like I messed with the color and tried to make it like a bright color. Or another example would be like this. I was just messing with the background and making it a bright color. Now, the contrast and stuff on these looks kind of cool, and I made the background like out of focus on this one. So this is what somebody like me 10 years ago, without the experience that I have now and without having seen the Photoshop tutorials, this is what I was doing. This is what I was able to do 10 years ago when I was editing these photos. Here's another one. I just made the background really blurry and then like cranked the color to make the color like pink, and I overdid the contrast on me. So now that I have more experience, I'm not going to do that. I want to take this photo of me, and instead of just having a bright color behind me, I want a picture. So, but I don't want just like a full picture. I want like just an abstract kind of like wall. So the other day when I was editing this, I searched for like studio, and I saw some nice backgrounds of a studio, and I kind of like this one. So Tyler Hendy donated this to Pexels, so I clicked this button and downloaded that one. Here's some other studio things, but the key is I want a background that is going to look like I'm standing in front of it, and I don't want a background. I want a background that's not too distracting. I also searched wall just to see some different wall backgrounds. How did I find the one that I ended up using? See, like these walls are kind of cool. They're just kind of, any of these walls you could put behind somebody that you're photoshopping, make it look like they're standing in front of the wall. Okay, let me try wall light. Alright, now I don't remember how I found it. Okay, since I can't find it, I don't want to waste your time. So I'm going to go back to, no, I'm going to go back to this one. This is my actual edited one. This is the background layer, so I'm just going to copy this background into here just to save you guys time. So this is the wall background that I found on Pexels that I decided, let me try and use this. As you can see, the real wall looks like that, and this fake wall looks like that. Look how much cooler that is. It looks like there's a light behind me shining down. It just makes the image pop a lot more. So first thing I want to do is add a little bit of Gaussian blur. So go up here to Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur. Just add a little bit of blur to the wall. If we go too far, it's going to get too blurry. I still want it to look like a wall. I just want to give a little bit of blur so it looks like it's further in the background. So it's, maybe 20 feet behind me instead of, if it's completely in focus, it'll look like maybe it's 3 feet behind me. If it's more just slightly blurry, it'll look like maybe it's like 10 feet behind me. Okay. Now, before I adjust the color on my body and my skin, I want to adjust the color of the background. That's just my own personal preference. I think it's easier that way. So down here, we're going to click this button, and it gives me these different options for changing color. The first thing I want to do is change the hue saturation. And when I click this button, it's going to make an adjustment layer up here. So watch, if I adjust the hue to see what different shades of color I can make this background, this is not actually changing the background. If I turn this off, the background is still the way it is. This is what they call a non-destructive layer, because it's not actually editing this image, it's a separate layer above it. So what I did the other day is I was moving it back and forth, trying to decide what color to make the background. And as I came over to the left here, it was a little bit more like a peach kind of wall color. And I thought, that's kind of cool, because it almost looks like here, I'll show you what I mean. It almost looks like the actual color of the actual wall. So it looks kind of natural, like we just shined a light on the actual wall. But what made me decide to go blue is because having like a peach kind of colored wall kind of blends with my peach color kind of skin. So it's like peach on peach, it kind of blends in. What I decided to do instead was bring this over to the bluish side, and I just try to get like the right amount of blue, like not too much, not too green and not too purple, just kind of like the right amount of blue. And now, as you see, something that you learn in art school is that when you have blue is a cool color, and orange or yellow are warm colors. So by adjusting this blue behind me, I'm trying to look at what color is like flattering for my skin. I don't really care too much if it blends in with the shirt because I don't really care about the shirt. What I'm looking at is my face and the blue behind my face to try and make the focus of I want the background to recede. I want the cool color of the background to recede, and I want the warm color of my skin to pop forward. So it gives it that 3D effect. Okay, so now our blue background is back there, but it looks kind of gray. I want to adjust this. I want more blue. I want more color. The more attention grabbing it's going to be. So I'm going to click this button that says Color Balance. It's going to make another adjustment layer up here. And now I can adjust the color and make it like, I can make it really outrageous like this. Or I can just try and find like a happy medium. Like if I leave it here, it's kind of like almost gray. Like you can barely even see the blue. I'm going to move it over until I get the right amount of blue without being too much. And this is all just my own personal preference. I mean, anybody editing, some people would be like, that's too much color, and some people would be like, I want more color. So it's really up to you what you want. So I'm just going to add some more blue. I'm going to add a little bit of red to make it a little bit more natural. And a little bit more blue down here, but I don't want it to look purple. I'm just trying to get like that really nice shade of blue. And so these three dials, cyan, red, magenta, green, yellow, blue, these are like the CMYK colors or RGB colors or whatever. Oh yeah, RGB, red, green, blue, duh. So these are your RGB colors, so you're adjusting each of the RGBs individually. So really you're just adjusting it just to your own personal preference. Like I said, I want it to look natural, but obviously it's not going to look as natural as the wall because it's the opposite color of what the real wall was. But I want it to look like a photo, like maybe we had a blue backdrop or something, like we were in a professional studio and there was a blue backdrop back there. I don't know, I kind of like that. I think that looks pretty cool. Now that we have the color of the background, now we can adjust the color of my skin. So let's see if this will let me add a levels. Oh, that reminds me, I want to add a levels to this too. So also down here, I want to boost the contrast of the background, but I don't want to use what I would have used 10 years ago, which was, or would have used up until 10 weeks ago, which is brightness contrast, right? You've probably all used this. You can adjust the brightness or you can adjust the contrast. Looks cool enough, right? Cancel, we're not going to use that. We're going to use something that I saw another tutorial use, and now I like it better. We're going to, I don't know if it matters what, if it's below or above these. So this is your levels. On the far right, you have the levels of white all the way up to 100%, and on the left, you have the black levels all the way down to 0. So a super, super bright part of the image, like maybe the eyeball right here, the super white will be the 100% white right here. And then like in the black shadows of maybe like this, it would be all the way down here. So right now we're not adjusting me because I'm on this top layer. We're adjusting just this background. So here's what I want to do. I just want to bring down the shadows by dragging this, and then it makes the background just a little bit darker. See that? So right here just to me looks a little bit washed out. I just want to go like this and make it a little bit darker. Keep in mind if the person in the front is brightly lit and the background is darker, it's going to make the person in front pop from the background. If the background is too bright, it's going to blend in. Okay, now we're going to go to me. First, I want to airbrush this zit on my neck. Whoop, that wasn't a very good job, but anyway. I don't overcorrect skin. I'll do little bits of, airbrushing with this, like the Band-Aid tool and stuff. I don't like when photos are overly airbrushed on the skin and it makes people look like porcelain. I think that looks bad. It looks too fake. But some photographers, some Photoshop people do it all the time. So I mean, it's your own personal preference. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to adjust the contrast. And I'm not going to adjust the contrast that much. I'm just going to do a levels. I'm going to drag it onto, I don't know how to make this work like that. So I'm just going to go up here to adjustments, levels, and now this is going to be destructive to my image here. Actually, that reminds me. So before I do that, I'm going to duplicate this layer. That way I always have this in case I want to go back to it, but I'm going to turn it off. I don't need it on. The color changes I'm going to make to this layer now are going to be destructive because once I make the changes, I can't go back unless I just delete it and start over again. So I'm going to go up here to levels and see it's showing that the darkest part of the image is here, starts here, and then the brightest part kind of goes up to there. So I'm just going to bring the black levels down just slightly. Yeah, I don't want to overdo it like I did 10 years ago. In the brightness, I might just want to add a little bit of brightness, just a little bit, so my skin is a little bit blowing out just to make it pop a little bit more. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not doing the brightness contrast thing. I'm just using this thing called levels. And I think that looks pretty good. Next, the color here is pretty good, but you notice I look a little bit red. In fact, adjustments, hue saturation. I don't really need to add a little bit. I'm just going to add a little bit of saturation. Just a little bit. Like 5. Okay. Now you notice my skin is not perfectly white balanced. Everything looks just slightly red. So the way we're going to fix that is we're going to go to Image, Adjustments, Color Balance. Now watch this. This is just like the color balance we used here on the background. The only difference is this is the color balance window when you're being destructive and editing directly on the layer that you want. The main one that I want to use is this one here, the cyan red, because this is going to take the red out of my skin and it's going to take the red out of the blacks, the red out of the shadows here, the red that's, you can't even really see it, but this should be black. It shouldn't be like slightly brownish, slightly reddish. So by moving this dial ever so slightly, we're going to see that red is going to disappear. Now look, if I took it all the way down, it would look really bad. It would, if I took it all the way to the red, it would look super red. I don't want to take it completely to the end. I just want to bring it down just a little bit until that red is gone and the black levels look black. Good. Now this magenta, if I go to the right, it makes the skin look green. So I always think the skin looks a little bit better if you just add a little bit of magenta. And then down here, if I were to go all the way to the right, I'd be blue. I'd look like a ghost or something, which would be cool if I was making a ghost effect, but we're not doing that right now. I always like to add just a little bit of yellow because to me, adding a little bit of yellow here and a little bit of magenta here really makes the skin look good. Again, that's my own personal opinion. And then So these two kind of make the skin look good. This one is more for adjusting the white balance to make the shadows and everything not look red. And as you can see, like once you adjust one of these, you kind of have to adjust the others. Then once you adjust that, you kind of adjust these, and you just keep going back and forth until you get everything right where you want it. And I think that looks pretty darn good. So you want to check it against the original. Click this button that says Preview. That's what it originally looked like. See that red in there now? Click the button. That's what it looks like now. That's unedited, edited, unedited, edited. Man. Huge difference. Okay, now we click OK. Now there's one more thing I want to change with this. It might be hard to see on the video side, but maybe up close you can see that this photo is a little bit out of focus. So I don't know if it's because just the focus ring on the camera was slightly off, or maybe Anthony was shaking the camera a little bit when he took the photo. But I know for me, that's always a pet peeve. When I'm taking photos of friends of mine and I come back and I go to edit the photo later on and I find out that my favorite photo is kind of out of focus, that annoys the crap out of me. I'm like, no. But here's what we're going to do. Because it's only a little bit out of focus, we can fix it. Here's how. It's so easy. We go up here to Filter. Now, it's only easy because this is a large photo. I mean, look how much detail, when we zoom in, look how much detail is still in that. If this was a small photo, it would all be pixelated, and we wouldn't really have any control. But this photo actually, if we look at it here, this is the original. The original photo is 2848 by 4288, so that's a huge photo. So there's a lot of detail in there that we can't even see right now looking at this. So that's why if this photo was 200 pixels by 400 pixels, we would have no wiggle room. But we have almost 3,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels. So that's a lot of pixels to give us a little bit of wiggle room here. So we go up here, Filter, Sharpen, not regular sharpen, we want Smart Sharpen. Open up Smart Sharpen. It always goes to like a weird part of the face, or a weird part of the picture that you probably don't even want. The eyes are pretty good to adjust. So we just want to adjust. Here's if we didn't do anything. If this was as close to like 0 as it possibly could be, that's what it looks like. We want to bring both of these dials up a little bit until it looks like we're bringing the picture into focus. And wow, that really looks like it's coming into focus now. For this photo, I think around like halfway on both of these. You don't want to go too far, because here, watch what happens when you go too far. It looks, this one, the bottom dial, when you go too far, it looks like blurry. And the top dial, when you go too far, it looks like you're doing like a grunge kind of, independent wrestling type, punk rock band type effect, which might work for some stuff, but not for what I'm doing. I want this to look like a natural focus. So somewhere here, we want these to be somewhere. All right. So it looks, if I go to the left, it looks a little bit more blurry. If I come to the right, it's a little bit too much. So basically what this does, and I'm probably not going to be able to explain it as well as somebody who's like a Photoshop expert, or somebody who actually designs the software. Wow, that looks really darn good. That actually might look better than what I did the other day. So basically, I think this one that says amount, what it actually does is it goes everywhere that there is, oh look, I can click and it shows me, oh look, I learned something new every day. This thing that says amount goes to anywhere where there's a different change in color. So like the change in color from the hair to the skin next to it, or the change in color from the edge. Oh, you can really tell. You can see what it's doing right here. So the amount goes to wherever there's a change in color, like the skin tone to the black, and it basically like boosts the contrast. So the more if it's down here, the contrast between the pixels is lower, so it looks a little bit blurrier, but then the more contrast you add, see, it's making this edge white and this edge black. And it makes it look, when you are zoomed in, you can see that it's fake, but when it's zoomed out, it looks like it's more in focus. Then this dial at the bottom, radius, this is taking the pixels around the pixels and deciding how far out you want it to go. So if you want the radius to be like, you want 1 pixel of contrast, you bring it down. If you want 10 pixels, so like this is like 1 pixel of contrast here. And if I bring it up, I'm telling it that I want 64 pixels of contrast. So it's making the contrast go like 64 pixels out. Or if I want it to be like 10 pixel contrast, it's going like 10 pixels out. So I think it looks, for this type of photo, if you're going for an effect, you can, use that. But for this, I want it to be like just a couple of pixels out radius, and I want this amount to be enough that it gives the illusion that the picture is in focus. And I think that actually looks pretty darn good right there. That looks really good. All right. So now we've erased the background. We've replaced the background with this image. As you can see, this is what it would look like with no color effects on it. This is with the color effects added to it. And we've adjusted me. Now, a lot of people would probably look at this and say, all right, we're done. I don't think we're done yet. I think we can add more to this image to make it look cooler. So first thing that I would do is I want to make it look like there's more stuff in the picture besides me and the wall behind me. So remember when I found that picture here with the light? I decided, let me play around with this. And I put, whoops, hold on. Let's put this down and put this image here. And then we're going to stretch it to make it a more suitable to the size of me. Here, double click it, and now it saves. Okay, good. I want to do Command All, Command Copy, Command Paste. And I'm going to delete this one and just use this image that I want to edit. All right, so now, because when you first drag it in, it makes it like that image that you can't edit, and I don't want that. So I'm going to use this tool again, and I'm going to highlight with this magic wand thing all the white that I want to delete, because I don't want the white in there. Okay, for the purposes of time, and then I'm going to hold Alt, and I'm going to drag down this part that I want to bring back, and then I'm going to let go of Alt, and I'm going to do this again, and see, it just keeps bringing in, as you do it, it keeps bringing in what you actually want to select. So I think that's pretty good. What I did the other day is I did feather and I did 3, and then I went in and I like really tried to erase. For the purposes of what I'm doing right now, to not bore you to death, I'm going to just leave it at 1. I'm going to delete it, and I'm not going to erase anymore. You can see there's like some white around here. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight this. I'm going to right click and click Select Inverse. It's going to highlight everything that's not in that box. And I'm going to click Delete, and now look, it got rid of those white lines. Good. So now I want this to look like it's behind me. So I'm going to put it at a position that looks like, a decent level. I'm going to put it behind me in the layers. And then to really sell that it's behind me, I'm going to put it out of focus. Blur, Gaussian blur, perfect. I actually like that. That 7.4 is like a perfect amount of blur. Now here's the downside. this picture is a light that's not turned on. I want this to look like it's turned on and it's shining a light. And I also want it to look like the light coming out of here might be the light that's on my face. So long story short, when we shot this photo, the original photo, I had a light back here shooting on me, and I had a light over here, like a soft light, shooting on my face to kind of illuminate my face with a soft shadow, and then this light back here was shining with like a harsh shadow, and then I had this nice little shadow on my face here. The reason I decided to do this lighting is because I wanted to have different shades to my face. I didn't want flat lighting on my face. I wanted it to be like one shade of light and then a little bit dark and then another shade of light. So it has like 3 layers of shading to my face. And by putting the lights up, shining down at a 45-degree angle, you know, it looks good like on the cheekbones and in the chin and stuff. So shining down at a 45-degree angle is usually the most flattering angle you can get for lighting. So that's a quick lighting tip for those of you who are into photography. And then my friend Anthony had the idea of having me wear headphones and put this little notepad, because most directors on movie sets will have headphones for listening to the playback, and also they'll have like maybe a shot list or other notes that they have close by, like in their pocket. So this, and then he told me to hold my hands like I was holding a ball and act like I was giving direction to somebody off camera, like I was, whether I'm giving direction to a camera person or giving direction to an actor, just act like I'm giving direction to somebody. So this image, the story we're going for is that we're trying to show that I'm a filmmaker, that I'm a director. Adding a light behind me like this, normally you wouldn't want a light in the shot. Normally you would never want a light in the shot. But because we're telling the story that I'm a filmmaker, showing that there's a light in the shot helps tell the story that I'm on set directing somebody. But what's ruining the story for me right now is that there's no light coming out of that light. So I'm going to create, I just turned off my layer so I could just focus on this light. I'm going to create a new layer, just a blank layer, and I'm going to use this layer to draw. I'm going to turn on my paintbrush, and I'm going to make it big enough. Oh, it's still there from the other day. I'm making the paintbrush big enough that it is the size of the light, and I'm going to make the color like a color. Oh, actually, I can click one of these. I want it to be like a bright yellow color, kind of almost white, but I don't want white, I want yellow. So I can put this opacity at 100 for this part. And it's like a soft, see, I'm using the soft setting. I'm not using the hard setting. But I don't want to just have that be there. I want rays, like as if you only get rays from a light when there's smoke. So imagine there's smoke there for a second. I'm going to set this to 25%. And now I'm going to click this. I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to go a straight line, click, and now it just made that. But I don't want just one. I want to go like this and make it look like it's a wide thing. But I don't want to make it perfectly even all across. I want to make it look like there's smoke and it's kind of like shining through the smoke. So it's like an uneven ray of light. Now I might look at this. Actually, we'll adjust the color later. So that I think looks pretty good. But there's something missing. It needs like a glow, like it's shining. Oh, maybe I made it a little bit too high. I probably should have made it a little bit lower. Like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This is just rough. I want a lens flare right here. How do we add a lens flare? We could add a lens flare in Photoshop, or I can use these lens flares from this package I bought from this guy. So I just want to give you the guy's name, if I can find it. I believe his name is Sergey Romelli. Anyway, he was selling a package on his website, and he probably still is, with all these different overlays. And he sold all these overlays on his website for 37 bucks. And I've basically used them on at least the last 10 photos I've done. So for 37 bucks over 10 photos, that means I've been spending like, it's cost me like $3 per photo to be able to have all these overlays. And I can keep these for the rest of my life and use them as much as I want. So I'm more than happy to pay him the 37 bucks to use his overlays package, and I can use it forever, and it's a great deal. So what I want is light flares. So he has all these things, butterflies, clouds, dramatic sky, falling snow, fireworks, fabric, fog. We're going to use one of these in a minute. Lightning. Where is lens flare? Lens flare. Where is lens flare? Like, there's so many things here that it takes a minute to find what I want. Light hits, light leaks. Light leaks. Oh, sun lens flare, that's what I want. Yeah, I'm going to switch it to this view so it's easier for me to see what I'm looking at here. Sun lens flare. Okay. So here's what I do. I go like this, and then I just go down. Doot, 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 until I find the one that looks the best to me. And that one looks pretty good. Let me just make sure there's not one that I like better. No, let's go back to the one. I think this is the one that I used the other day. That one. So I'm just going to drag this into Photoshop, and I'm going to put it on the top layer in a second. But first, I know what you're thinking. What are you going to do with all that black? I didn't know this until a couple months ago. Look, you go up to where it says normal, you click this, you click screen, and watch. Boom. Anything that's black, on screen, anything that's black, it makes it transparent. I saw that in a Photoshop tutorial like a couple months ago, and that blew my mind. Okay, so now we're going to just stretch it a little bit because I want this to be like the size of the light. That's pretty good. And I want to put this on top of me so that like this light flare that's coming across is coming across my face. The only downside is, look, there's a little bit of white on the edge here. You probably can't even see it in the video, but there's a little bit of white on the edge there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click All, Copy, Paste. I'm going to delete this one and just use the layer that I can actually adjust properly. And I'm just going to erase. I'm going to erase here. And I'm even going to do it down there just to be safe so that it gets rid of that hard edge. So now when I go to screen, there's no white line now. Now I'm going to put this back. Now see, as I'm dragging it, you can see this like lens flare here, how it is on top of me instead of behind me. If it was behind me, it would kind of lose the illusion that there's a lens flare there. But when it's on top of me and it's kind of like shining on me a little bit, then it works. All right, so now I'm thinking this is a little bit too yellow. So I'm going to click this yellow layer that I have here. Go to Image, Adjustments, Color Balance. Super simple. I'm just going to adjust these until, actually the main one is this one, because this is the yellow. And I'm just going to bring it down so it's more subtle. All right, that's pretty good. Okay, next. We're almost done. I want to sell this smoke effect, and I want to help fill some of this space to give it a little bit more 3D action. So, where did that window go? Not that one. It's behind here. Where did you go? Okay. Photo overlays, here we go. All right, we're almost there. My mouse is acting crazy. Okay. We're going to come back to these things. We're going to look for fog. Oh no. We're going to look for like fog or smoke. And watch what we're going to do. This will be so cool. And it's going to be very subtle, but it's just going to add a little bit of pop. Maybe that's not the right one. Fog, smoke, smoke, smoke. Tree, light lakes, film, film, film. Smoke. Here we go. This is what we want. No, that's not what we want. Okay. This is what we want. Realistic smoke. See, the S is cut off. That's why I didn't see it. Realistic smoke overlays. We want something like this. We don't want a lot of smoke. We don't want it to look like cigarette smoke. We want it to look like fog on set, like on a movie set. Maybe this isn't the right one. Fog version 2. Oh, this is what we want. Okay, this is. I think this is the one I used the other day. Perfect. We're going to drag this in here. We're going to put this one we're going to put behind me because we want it to look like I'm standing in front of the fog. I'm going to stretch it so that it fills the whole screen so there's no weird edges showing. And look, I just want some fog behind me like that. That's what it's going to look like. But we're going to turn this screen, and now it's transparent. Boom. Now there's fog behind me. Perfect. Now I want to add a little bit of fog at the bottom of the screen. So where did that window go now? Okay. I want to add fog at the bottom. Where's a good one? Like I used the other day. I think it was that one. No, it was this one. Okay, we're going to put this one in here. We don't even have to stretch it. I just want to put it at the bottom. We're going to turn it to screen. Now there's some smoke behind me, and I'm going to duplicate this layer. Watch this trick. I'm going to put it in front. Now there's some in front and some behind. If I take the one in front and just lower it a little bit, now look, I have a little bit of fog in front of me and a little bit of fog behind. But I think it's a little bit too much white, so I'm just going to bring the opacity down a little bit. Same thing on the one in the back. Bring the opacity down just a little bit. And you can do it as much as you want. I mean, there's really no rule as to how much opacity you can have. So that's pretty good. The only thing that's missing now is I wish there was something here. And as I was looking at it the other day, I was thinking, what can I put here? And then I was realizing I need a little bit more lens flare. So lens flare doesn't have to be just one lens flare layer. You can add more layers of lens flare to help sell the effect. So I went back to lens flare. I gotta remember what folder that's in. Was it this one? This one. I think this is the one that I used. All right. I want to make this look like it's coming out from over there. First, I got to double click it and make it this layer. And I can all copy, paste, delete that layer. Now I have this layer that I can edit. Edit, free transform. I'm going to rotate it to make it look like it's coming out of here. And then I'm going to stretch it. And I'm going to make it screen so it's transparent. Now I can kind of aim it where I want it to be. Kind of like that. But here's the problem, and this is why I made it a separate layer that I can edit. This is too much, right? I like that it's like haloing my head a little bit, because it's kind of, I like that the horizontal lines back here are kind of like framing my head, and the light coming across is kind of framing my head. But I think this is a little bit too much, a little bit too distracting. So I'm going to go to my eraser tool, and I'm going to make it super big, super, super big. And I'm just going to go like this until I make this really subtle. In fact, now it's so subtle I can bring it in a little bit. So now it looks like there's a little bit of lens flare coming from here in the image that just kind of like adds a little bit of layer to that. And I can even, maybe I can even make it a little bit out of focus. Let's go to blur, Gaussian blur. Maybe not 7, just a little bit out of focus. And then I did also take one of these anyway, there's another layer that I added just a little bit more. I'll just steal it from the one here. Is it this one? Yeah. It's just a little bit more of like this rainbow lens flare. I just added to it to make it like a little bit look more like a lens flare coming out from that side. And that is basically it. You see we have a little bit of smoke back here to help sell the effect. We have the light here, which I think I'm going to make a little bit less yellow the more that I look at it. I don't want too much yellow. Boom. Now I've got the lens flare here. It looks like it's shining out the side of my head. It's lens flaring into the fake lens of the Photoshop image. We've got lights in the back. We've got smoke. We got smoke down here. Now we've got an image that really kind of looks 3D and pops, and it's colorful. And let's compare that to the original image. That's the original image. It has kind of cool lighting, a little bit out of focus, kind of boring with this background. There's no smoke, there's no lens flare, nothing making it look cool. And then boom, that's with everything added to it. Doesn't it look so much cooler? And this sells, you know, that I'm a director, filmmaker, all that kind of stuff. But this, with the light back here and everything, helps sell it a little bit more. See? And that's how you take an image, a kind of plain image like this, and just make it pop a little bit more. Make the color a little bit better, the contrast a little bit better, the focus a little bit better, changing the background, adding layers. You know, all these layers help make the image really pop, in my opinion. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more about me, go to charlesdewandeler.com, and you can see some of my my bio, some of the books I've written, my films down here, Take Me Back, parody movie, Show Stealer, and more films coming on the way, coming in the future. And there you have it. All right, if you have any other requests or comments or anything, feel free to comment below in the video. And if you think that this was not a waste of time, let me know. And if you want to see future videos, let me know what you think I should show in a future video. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Bye.